Welcome to Logic Bender. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to talk about the video Candace made back in December where she talked about a tip she received that said bomb dogs were used at UVU to try and find the alleged rifle that was used to kill Charlie Kirk. A few days ago, I came across some people talking about it on X and calling Candace a liar. So I decided to look into it, and I ended up finding some really interesting things that I think might back her story up. But before we jump into that, I'm going to play a 3.5 minute clip of Candace's video to give everyone a quick refresher and give those who haven't seen it a chance to watch it. So here's that now.
So the story goes, you remember the story goes that the police officers found the gun in a wooded area. Now, immediately, we had people telling us, students telling us that even that description is faux. Wooded area, no, that's actually not the right topography. I think I showed you that footage of where they found that gun, certainly not in the woods. There's some trees and there are some bushes. Well, interestingly enough, before that gun was found, that area had already been searched, not just by veteran police officers who told me that the way they do this is they sort of lock arms, and then they kind of go, you've kind of seen this in some shows maybe. That's what they did. They came up, they didn't have anything. Then they said, okay, we're only human. Let's release the bomb dogs in that exact area where ultimately the gun is going to later be discovered. The bomb dogs didn't turn up with anything, and here is why that fact alone is remarkably suspicious according to the police officers that were involved. Over $19 billion has been spent on research and development of technology that can detect explosives, okay? Over $19 billion, and yet no man-created technology comes close to conquering the scent of a dog. Essentially, what I'm saying to you is that dogs are the highest grade available technology that we have when it comes to detecting explosives. And bomb dogs are specifically trained to detect explosive like gunpowders. A bomb dog, they can smell it up to a week, right? Maybe even more because they're specifically training. And during this training process, I'm reading they'll cover something in chemicals. They'll train them. So like after it rains, obviously they're just training their scent to get stronger and stronger and stronger. After a week, after an explosive goes off or a weapon is fired, they will tell you, here it is. They'll be able to find that weapon. I'm telling you this so that you can comprehend that if you're sending out bomb dogs to find a weapon that was just recently fired like an hour ago, that's not even fun for them. That's not even interesting. That's ridiculous. You're basically saying to that dog, 1 + 1 = what? It's too easy. This is what they did. They sent these bomb dogs out. They go over to the area and they find nothing. The highest grade technology that we have finds nothing. These dogs belong to the sheriff's department in Pleasant Grove, by the way. You should know that. So seasoned officers, plus the dogs crawled the area and came up dry. Until, fast forward, so many miracles in this story, fast forward to when the feds arrive. And what happens then is that federal officers direct 3 police officers over yonder. Check again, yonder, right over there. Because I just don't trust that super high-grade technology of a dog's nose that we have. And you, sir, you 3, go and see if there could be something over there. And guys, you're not going to believe me. The nose that's trained to pick up gunpowder, explosive, combustible material, they get an F. But lo and behold, these police officers, bam, there it is, the gun. We've got the weapon. Woo!
All right, now that you're all caught up with that, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just going to kind of walk you through what led to me finding each piece of evidence I found, and we'll just start at the beginning and go from there. So one of the posts I came across was this one from Gary at Paramount Tactical. It says, Candace lied to you about bomb dogs. Candace Owens proved once again that she's either a liar, an incompetent researcher, or both. She talks about things she knows nothing about, but boy, can she spew ignorance with the confidence of a used car salesman. It's quite remarkable, actually. Additionally, as AdBlue52795 points out below, the responding units don't even have bomb dogs. Was this story entirely made up to convince you of a lie? Pretty strong words. So the first thing I did was click on this blue person's post that Gary quoted. It says, USCO, the Utah County Sheriff's Office, does not have bomb dogs. The PD department Candace mentioned does not have bomb dogs. The scanner said K9 unit. They did not say bomb dogs. The USCO dogs are trained in narcotics and apprehension. And then they left a link to the Utah County Sheriff's website, so naturally I clicked that to see what it said. Then I see this. Dogs can also be trained to detect various narcotics and explosives. By training with actual narcotics and chemicals used in explosives, the dogs are able to smell the very distinct odors given off from these items. And I thought that meant there was pretty much a guarantee that they had dogs capable of doing that. But it does say can. I assume that they used the word can because they were answering the question of why do we need dogs in police work? Because it also says that dogs can be trained to find people, both those that are hiding from various law enforcement agencies to avoid being taken into custody, as well as those individuals that have become lost or missing. Obviously, we know their dogs are almost certainly able to do that. They just used the word can because they were answering why police dogs are needed. But I wanted something a lot more definitive. So I went on the hunt and I came across this. This is a Facebook post from the Provo Police Department. It says the Utah County Sheriff's Office and Provo Police Department entered 4 of their Metro Bomb Squad canines into the competition as part of the explosive detection trials. Though the canines are from 2 separate agencies, you'd never know it due to the amount of time they spend training and deploying together. It mentions the canines being from separate agencies. This is because the Metro Bomb Squad consists of both Provo PD and Utah County Sheriff's Office. The post shows all 4 of the officers and their dogs, and that they claimed 4 of the top 5 spots in the competition. Take note of the Loki dog and its handler, Sergeant McDaniel. I'll bring them up again later in the video. So once I found out that not only do they have bomb dogs, they even enter them into competitions, I went back to Gary's post and made a reply showing what I had found. I said, that person you quoted is wrong. Even the link they posted mentions the dogs being trained to detect explosives. The UCSO and Provo Police Department also entered 4 of their bomb canines into competition. And I showed the Facebook post I had found as well as the UCSO website saying they could be trained for explosives. I felt good about what I had found, so I thought that was going to be the end of it. But then I decided to let that blue person know what I had found too. As you can see, I just said that UCSO does in fact have bomb dogs, and I linked to the same information I put in my reply to Gary. And I'm really glad I decided to reply to them, because Love USA, aka @blue52795, didn't agree with me at first. They replied back with, dogs can be trained, does not say they are trained. Their website lists their dogs and none of them are explosive trained. They are all narcotic and apprehension trained. The Utah Metro Bomb Squad has dogs. The PD department Candace mentions does not have bomb dogs. The dog she mentioned, Freya, is not a dog in the county. So I went back to the Utah County Sheriff's website and clicked on Meet the Team. And I immediately saw that they were right about there being no mention of them being bomb dogs. Obviously, it didn't change how I feel since I didn't imagine the fact that they literally took bomb dogs to a competition, but I was curious as to why there was no mention of it. That's when I realized none of the dogs on this website were part of the competition that they entered the bomb dogs into that I showed you earlier in the video. This was really strange to me. The Facebook post Provo PD made about taking the bomb dogs to the competition was posted on March 25th, 2025. Could they really have replaced all 4 of those dogs with new ones in a year? Do they just not list every single dog they have on the website? These were a couple of the questions that were running through my head. So I was thinking on it, and that's when I had the idea that what if the bomb dogs that were taken to the competition weren't the dogs that got replaced? What if they were the dogs that replaced the ones on the website, and the website just hadn't been updated in a long time? So I went back to the Utah County website with a more critical eye this time, and right away I noticed this under the dog named Aki. It says, Aki is a 9-year-old Belgian Malinois bred in Germany. Aki started his service with the Utah County Sheriff's Office in the fall of 2012. Well, if he started in 2012, he'd be much older than 9 in 2026. Then I found his stats page on Project Canine Hero showing he was born in February of 2010. So if he's still alive right now, that would make him 16. But just to be sure, I found this retirement post for him on Facebook by the Utah County Sheriff's Office Canine team stating he retired in April of 2020. I also found this photo of one of the other bomb dogs named Dude that they took to the competition. It shows that he turned 4 this year, obviously nowhere near old enough to retire. I knew I was correct about the website just not being updated, so I went back and let Blue know what I found. I gave them the information about the website not being updated, as well as the fact that the Metro Bomb Squad is a multi-agency unit that includes both Utah County Sheriff's Office and Proto PD handlers and dogs. They replied back saying, "Thank you, I did miss that. A couple questions. Have you found anything about the Pleasant Grove PD having bomb dogs, as Candace mentioned? Have you found any reporting of bomb dogs being used in the search for the gun or used at all after the shooting? The scanner mentioned canines are on their way, but no mention if they were bomb dogs or if they were used at all." So I went back on the hunt. Something else Candace did in her video was mention a specific dog by name. Here's that clip now.
That's not the only dog in the story. Then there's Freya. Freya is a canine dog, and I am told that and please correct me. Okay, actually please don't send me a million emails if this little factoid I get wrong, but my understanding is that the canines are different from the bomb dogs, and the canines are trained for like drugs and like can like smell a person. Okay, whatever. Whatever. Freya in this story is a canine. Okay. And she is specifically the canine that sniffed out the route to the rooftop where Tyler Robinson, the Losey Center rooftop, where he allegedly took the shot. Now, in case when I tell you that, you're reasonably concluding that this means that they took the gun that the officers found, they gave it to Freya, and Freya smelled the weapon and then said, "Here we go," and led them back to the rooftop. I want you to know that you'd be wrong, because everything in the story has to be exceptional. Everything in this story has to be different and special and unique. Actually, they didn't give Freya any object, but rather conducted something that was described to me as a condensed scent trace. So it's different. Freya, I'm told by police officers, essentially traced the scent from the bottom of the building where we saw a person jump off, right? And back to the top of the building. So Freya was able to conclude it's effectively like a target odor trace that the person who jumped here came from up here. I want to be clear. I am hearing this from multiple officers who were involved with the hunt, who have reached out since the very beginning and said everything was weird, everything was wrong. We feel like we were effectively being sent on like wild goose hunts, like a wild goose hunt by the feds, and the feds were sort of directing the show.
So you hear her mention a dog named Freya. I knew if I could find evidence that this dog existed, it would also show that Candace didn't just pull the story out of her ass, and that she truly was given this information by someone clearly in the know. So I went looking for Freya the dog. And what do you know? I found this PDF. It's a January 2024 notice about a work session meeting that the Pleasant Grove City Council would be having. I ran a keyword search for Freya and boom! We have a hit, ladies and gentlemen. It says, Officer Hendricks will be taking over as the canine handler for Freya, who will be participating in dog school, which lasts 6 months. Officer Estrada was thanked for her service. Well, 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 so Freya does exist. For good measure, I also found this PDF. This time it's a February 2025 notice for another Pleasant Grove City Council meeting. Ran another keyword search for Freya, and we get another hit. It says, Chief Brown thanked Miss Young and presented her with a plaque. He also gifted her a stuffed animal version of the canine, Freya, as well as a coin and a backpack. Miss Young had helped them locate and apprehend a suspect. Now, I didn't find anything about Freya being a bomb dog, but to be fair, Candace didn't refer to Freya as being a bomb dog.
My understanding is that the canines are different from the bomb dogs, and the canines are trained for like drugs and like can like smell a person. Okay, whatever. Whatever. Freya in this story is a canine. Okay.
I also wasn't able to find evidence that Pleasant Grove PD has their own bomb dogs, but I did find evidence that they have access to them. Take a look at this 2023 article from the Daily Herald. It's about how the Provo PD bomb dog named Scout went from nobody wanting him to becoming a police canine and getting second place in a tournament. He ended up getting first place 2 years later in that competition I told you about earlier, so good job, Scout. But that's obviously not what I'm trying to show you, so let's scroll down the article a bit. It says here that with Scout's talented nose, Lewis said the police team could be called out to help anywhere in the state. Unlike drug sniffers, bomb dogs are long sweep dogs, like sniffing out a whole school rather than the trunk of a car. In Scout's time of service, he will help with parades, concerts, dignitary visits, and a variety of other occasions and emergencies. Officer Tona and Scout responded just last week to the Pleasant Grove High School bomb threat. So that establishes that these bomb dogs can be called in from anywhere in the state. The next thing I wanted to look for was proof that police dogs were used at UVU after the Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm sure everyone has heard the dispatch audio saying canines were headed to UVU, but in case you haven't, Here's a clip of Baron Coleman playing that audio on his podcast.
We're going to fast forward a little bit because now we're going up to 12:33 p.m. 10 minutes, only 10 minutes past the Big Bang. And now we get the introduction of canine dogs on the scene. Here we go.
1J129. I've got all county canine headed that way. Where do you need us?
We got all county canines headed that way. Where do you need us?
Okay, so 10 minutes after the shooting, they say over dispatch that all canine units in the county are heading to UVU. Since we've already established that the county has bomb dogs, the logical conclusion is that bomb dogs were headed to UVU since all canine units in the county were headed there. But who knows? Maybe they got lost on the way. So I wanted to look for proof that there were police dogs on UVU campus after the assassination. Here's a USA Today article talking about the rifle being recovered. And if we scroll down here, it says, police officers later appeared with a canine and tracked the shooter through the side and onto a property next door, Hope said. He didn't know if the shooter parked a vehicle near the construction site. So that lets us know they were there, but it mentioned a canine. And I also wanted to find images, so I kept looking. And I came across this The Guardian page that served as live updates back when the search for a suspect was still continuing. If we scroll down a bit, we can see a photo of an officer with a dog, and the caption says, "An officer walks with a police dog after the Utah campus shooting." Here's another The Guardian live update page that has a different photo. That caption says, "A policeman and a canine unit walk on campus after the shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University in Orem on Wednesday." So we have clear proof of multiple canines being on UVU campus that day. We don't need to take the dispatch audio's word for it. Now, it didn't mention them being bomb dogs, but since we already know the county has bomb dogs, and the dispatch said all canines were headed to UVU, it seems fairly obvious that bomb dogs were headed there that day. I also want to bring your attention to something else. Eagle-eyed viewers may notice that this officer and his dog looks very familiar. When I saw this picture, I thought, where have I seen this before? And then I remembered Loki and his handler. Remember that Loki dog and his handler that I told you to take note of earlier in the video? Loki was one of the dogs that entered into the competition. Here he is with his handler again. I can't be 100% sure about it, obviously, but they look very, very similar. Both the handler and the dog. You may notice that one has a full beard and the other has a goatee, but it's not like a man changing his beard style is out of the question. If this were to be the same person and the same dog, it would prove beyond all doubt that bomb dogs were there that day. One of the other points I've seen Gary at Paramount Tactical and others make is the fact that just because a dog is a bomb dog doesn't automatically mean it can detect firearms and ammunition. And Gary's not wrong. That is a fact. But like Gary himself has said, bomb dogs can be trained for it.
I also want to premise this with the fact that this story that she's telling, all right, you have to understand this was another anonymous source. She actually names the dog. Myself and other people that are familiar with police dogs, there's registries for them. We could not find the name of the dog. I don't remember what it is right now. But the fact is this is a relayed story to her by an anonymous source. We don't even know that this story is true.
And that may very well be the case that you weren't able to find the dog. But as I showed earlier in the video, a police dog named Freya exists in Pleasant Grove. Let's continue.
All right. So again, what he's talking about here specifically is Candace is full of shit. All right. That's what he's saying. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And while she delivers what she's saying with much enthusiasm, with what sounds like a lot of confidence in what she's saying, and then she tries to convince you through exaggeration that what she's saying is true. And if you believe otherwise, you're absolutely ridiculous. That's what she does time and time again. And I can tell you right now, gun dogs and bomb dogs, yes, a bomb dog can be trained on guns. He talks about that later on. You guys go watch that full video. I don't know. I'll end up putting a link down in the description below to that video. You can go watch it. But they need to be specifically trained.
Well, I'm sure you can guess that the next step would naturally be to see if the Metro Bomb Squad trains their bomb dogs for the ability to detect firearms and ammunition. And that's exactly what I did. Take a look at this. This is the Utah Post Canine Program's Explosive Detector Dog Training Manual. If we scroll down to Section 6, it says, Firearm/ammunition sniff scenario. The handler shall deploy the dog in a scenario which has been prepared to examine the dog's ability to locate/indicate a discharged firearm and also several of its expended cartridges, which have been hidden in 2 separate locations within a suspect area of approximately 800 square yards. However, it does say that officers and agencies can choose not to train their dogs to find guns, but we at least know for sure they offer it. Now let's see if we can find an example of one of the Metro Bomb Squad dogs having that capability. Let's have another look at that article I showed you earlier talking about that dog scout from Provo PD going to Pleasant Grove High School for a bomb threat. It says, Officer Adam Tona was assigned as Scout's handler. He successfully certified Scout through both the post and alcohol, tobacco, and firearms Canine Explosive Detection School, and now Scout can detect 27 different odors, Provo PD said in its social media posts. They have been partners together on patrol for 19 months. One of Scout's best finds so far is detecting a firearm and ammunition at a crime scene. So we know for a fact that not only do they have bomb dogs, at least some of them are also trained to find firearms. When you combine everything I've found in this video, it becomes clear as day that Candace didn't pull this out of her ass. Someone very obviously told her this. Like I said, the Metro Bomb Squad consists of both Provo PD and Utah County Sheriff's Office, and I've also shown that Pleasant Grove PD has access to them as well as anyone else in the state. I'm sure she just misunderstood the part about all the dogs coming from Pleasant Grove. That's my guess, but what's for sure is she didn't make this story up. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. I'm new to this, so I apologize if it was a little rough around the edges and had audio problems. I'll try and clean that up going forward. I have another video that I'm working on about a different Charlie Kirk subject that I hope to have out in the next week or two. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider following me on X. It's at @LastLogicBender. Anyway, I'll see y'all on the next one. Later.